What's up, everybody? Welcome to Brews and Board Games. My name's Andrew, and today we are taking a look at Tidal Blades, Heroes of the Reef. This game was designed by Tim and Ben Eisner, published by Druid City Games and Skybound, with art and world building by Mr. Cuddington. Now, overall, Tidal Blades is a worker placement set collection dice chucking game. The main things that you're going to be doing in this game is placing your character around different parts of the board, gaining the benefit of those spaces. You're going to be fighting monsters and completing challenges by rolling dice, trying to achieve certain results, as well as upgrading your stat dials, which are going to provide you with different benefits throughout the game. Now, this game is going to be played over 4 rounds, or you can play with a variant of 5 rounds. So at the start, you're only going to be able to go to 2 different places, indicated by placing these tokens on the different locations. On rounds 2 and 4, you're going to be given another token, allowing you to go to more places. Now, when you go to a location, you're going to place your token over top of that space so nobody else can go there, as well as placing your character. And I mentioned before, you're going to gain the immediate benefit of that space. That can include fruit, which is going to allow you to roll additional dice against monsters or for completing challenges. Gaining shells, which essentially is going to block hits that are incoming to you while you are fighting those monsters or completing challenges, and as well as gaining other various cards that you can play during the game. Now, as well as gaining the immediate benefit from the space you went to, you are also going to get a benefit from the area that you went to. So the board is broken down into different areas. For this video, I'm just going to call them islands. So if you go to a certain island, you're also going to get that island's benefit. And these are all unique benefits. If you go to the Citadel of Time, that's going to allow you to draw more challenge cards to complete. If you go to the Chronoseum, you're going to be able to draw some stunt cards, which is going to provide you with an immediate benefit in the game. If you go to the Droska Ring, you're going to be able to purchase market cards, which each have varying costs and benefits. And then if you go to Lamara Stadium, you are going to be able to take this boat around the track, gaining the different benefits on each of those spaces. And then finally, the fold. If you go to the fold, this is where you're going to be able to fight the monsters. Now, when it comes to the challenges, this is a big part of the game. There's going to be 3 different types of challenges. One for the Droska Ring, one for the Chronoseum, and one for Lamar Stadium. All of these are going to be color-coded accordingly, and they're going to have various degrees of difficulty for the dice requirements that you're going to have to achieve, and they're going to provide different points at the end of the game. Now, to complete a challenge, your character must be on the island of the challenge you're trying to complete. In this case, we're going to try to complete this Chronoseum challenge, so our character must be on that island. So we would look at what results we need to complete this challenge, and we would roll dice to try to achieve those symbols. In addition to rolling those dice, you are going to roll what's called a danger die. And when you roll this, if any of these X's turn up, you must spend a shell to essentially block that hit. Now, over the course of the game, on rounds 2 and 4, when you gain an additional token to go to more spaces, the danger die is also going to increase in difficulty as well. With level 2, it's going to have more X's, and then at level 4, there's going to be even more X's. So you are going to need to block those hits, and if you do not, if you get a hit and you can't block it, one of your dice goes away. Once you complete this challenge card, you are going to uptick your stat dials on your character board for each of the successful results. So in this case, we are going to go up on the resilience trait and the synergy trait, for those are the results that we rolled. And then finally, you would take this challenge card and tuck it behind your character board. And then if you have one of each of the 3 arenas, the Chronoseum, Droska Ring, and Lamar Stadium, you now have a set, and that will allow you to go up additional points on the champion board. Monsters work essentially the same as challenges. You're just going to go to the fold where you would fight the monsters, and you are going to try to roll dice to achieve the results listed on that monster card. The monster doesn't need to be defeated all in one turn, so if you gain a hit on the monster, you are going to place one of your tokens over top of that spot, indicating that you have hit that monster. If you defeat the monster, you are going to gain certain rewards, and the monster can also escape off of the board, and if you do not have any hits on it, you will gain a penalty. Now, the only difference between the monster and the challenge cards is that with the challenge cards, if you roll dice after the challenge, they go to your spent dice. The monsters, if you roll dice against that monster, those dice are lost and they are put back into the supply. So one quick note about the dice. You are going to start with these basic white novice dice. Over the course of the game, you are going to be able to upgrade these dice, separating into 2 different paths. The red dice are going to be better suited for spirit and focus symbols on the challenges and monsters, and the blue dice are going to be better suited for resilience and synergy symbols. From there, the dice get even better, specializing in the category even more with better hits on the dice, better faces. And then from there, the dice would separate even further. So the red dice would branch out into dice specializing only in spirit, but there's a lot more symbols on there, and then in focus, and there's a lot more symbols for the focus, as well as the resilience and synergy. One would separate into being even better at resilience, and the other would separate into being even better at synergy. So these are the top dice in each of those categories. Next up, let's talk about the character board, and we're going to quickly discuss the 4 different stat dials. First up is going to be focus. This is going to tell you how many dice you can roll in the challenge or against a monster at a time. So right now, our character stat starts at 1. So that means we can only roll 1 die against challenge or a monster. However, for each fruit that we spend, we can add an additional die to that roll. So if we spend 2 fruit, we're going to be able to add 2 dice if we have them available in our active dice slot to roll against that challenge or monster. Now the next one we have is spirit. Over the course of the game, you're going to get these certain cards, which are called stunt cards. And these are going to have various effects based on whatever level your spirit track is on. So some say you're going to gain shells equal to what your spirit trait is. So if our spirit trait was at 3, if we played a stunt card that said you gain shells to whatever trait your spirit level is on, we would gain 3 shells. And some of these can be various effects, some can be very powerful. Now the synergy trait represents how many character cards we can have in play. At the start of the game, you're going to have a character deck, and these are going to be various powers that you can play during the game, and these are all asymmetric from other characters. So at the start, the synergy trait is going to be on 1, so we can only have 1 of these cards in play. But over the course of the game, we're going to be able to uptick this trait, allowing us to have more character cards active during the game, making our character even stronger. And the last trait we have is resilience. So when you are trying to complete challenges and rolling dice, you are going to take dice that you have in the active slot, and once you roll those for the challenge and complete the challenge or fail the challenge, those dice are going to go into your spent dice section. The resilience trait says how many dice you can take back from this spent dice back to your active. And if you choose a die to bring back, you can also upgrade that die and then maybe turning it into a better die for either the spirit or focus or the resilience and synergy. If you take back one of these blue dice, you can upgrade that even further. So this stat is just basically saying how many dice you can refresh back into your active, and if whatever dice you choose to refresh, or even if you choose dice in your active, those dice can also be upgraded as well. So over the course of the game, you're going to be able to uptick this even further because you only start with 1, which means you can only bring 1 die back to your active. So you want to upgrade this stat, allowing you to bring back more dice into your active slot. And that essentially is the game in a nutshell, or seashell since we're playing Tidal Blades. Over the course of the game, you're going to be doing all these various things, accumulating points, and the winner of the game is going to be whoever has the most points at the end of the game. And you're going to be gaining points through various things throughout the game, whoever is the highest on the champion board, putting hits on the monsters, impressing the judge by completing challenges wherever the judge is on that arena, as well as making the sets in your character board for each of the 3 arenas, and the individual points on those challenge cards themselves. So whoever has the most at the end of the game wins. Alright, so first up, let's talk the components. There's a ton of stuff in this game, and I only have the retail box. I don't have the Kickstarter version. Overall, I've been really happy with everything. The island boards themselves, nice thick cardboard. Everything's really easy to read. The text is big. Everything looks really nice. There's the fruit tokens and the shell tokens. These are really cool. I like them a lot. Nice thick cardboard. All the dice in the game, like I really like this D8 right here. All these danger dice. I think it's super cool. They made them different colors. Really nice little touch. the regular dice that you're going to be rolling, there's a ton of dice. And I really like it. The symbols are really cool. It's easy to read. And I just love the different colors, how you can upgrade the dice. And there's just so many of them. The card quality is great. I haven't had any issues with the card quality at all. There's a bunch of different cards. Challenge cards, stunt cards, monster cards, character cards. There's a bunch, market cards, and I haven't had any issues. So I've been really pleased on that front. The character boards themselves, these are nice. The dials, I haven't had any problems with them at all. And I mean, I've been turning them a bunch. They're put together fairly well. It's not just the regular snap-on things that you might see in other games. The quality is pretty good on them. And overall, they've been staying flat on these boards and they've been rotating perfectly. I haven't had any issues with this at all. I don't have the minis from the Kickstarter version, but these standees are fantastic. I think the art's great on them. And I think they just work for what it is. I don't really need minis for this type of game. I think the standees are even better. It's cool looking at, you know, who your character is instead of maybe just having some gray plastic on the board. And as well as the game comes with this little score tracker, there's a bunch of sheets in here. I think you're going to be fine, and you could probably find more online. Now let's talk the manual. The manual is pretty big and it's not that complicated. This was an easy read for me. There's a lot of pictures, a lot of different examples, and I really like how they laid out everything. I think I only looked up one thing on Board Game Geek pertaining to a rule question that I had. Everything else was right in here. They did a really good job with this manual, and they also have an almanac. So anything that you can't resolve during this rule book, you can certainly find it in this almanac, besides that one thing that I just mentioned. And it even has a quick reference on the back here. This almanac is just going to break down little nuanced things a little bit more, as well as go over some solo aspects, as well as co-op and two-player. So overall, this almanac is really good to have on hand. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the box. I have the retail version again, but everything is fit back in there beautifully. I haven't had to cram anything in there, and everything has its own little space with space left over. So, and you know those games that I'm talking about where it's like you got to put the stuff back in the baggies and like cram it down and like kind of do a little Tetris style to fit everything back in the box. No issues at all here. I've even had some compartments completely open that I could put other things in there if I needed to. So overall, that box organizer has been beautiful. I really like this theme a lot. I think they did a good job of breaking the board down into like these separate islands. I think that really kind of gets you into the theme. Like it really feels like if you have to take your character and you have to go over here, kind of like you're actually going to a different island. I think that's really cool. Really like how they broke down everything. I overall really like the style that they went for. I mean, this champion board here, it's really unique looking. It's this long board and it's got these, you know, just the style of it is pretty cool. You know, and even just like how they made each of these arenas look slightly different. Like this Lamar Stadium, it's this nice circle and the artwork on it is fantastic. Overall, the artwork on all of these locations is really cool. You really do get a sense of like, you're like the Droska Ring is like this beachfront with this huge cave, you know, and then this water. You get the sense of like a real water world. And I really think they've accomplished what they were trying to go for. The monster cards, they all look really, really cool. I really like the style that they went for with those monsters. It kind of gives it like a lighthearted but dangerous monster kind of feel, if that makes any sense. The art on all of the character cards is really unique. They did a good job on here. And the challenge cards, all of these are a little bit different. And just the overall look of those, you know, you got the border for what arena it pertains to, and as well as slightly different art. And the symbols on there make it look really cool. So overall, I really like all the card design. I think they did a really good job. And the character board art themselves. I mean, all the characters on here are really cool. I like these a lot. You just get it gives me a sense of like an easy feeling. It's almost like an Everdell feeling. Like it can be kind of cutthroat trying to get in there and take certain things, but that theme that you get, it's almost still kind of lighthearted. if that makes any sense. Like the Everdell is kind of like the woodland creatures, right? So you get a little relaxed feeling somewhat. And here it's kind of the same thing, right? It can be cutthroat as far as getting to the spaces, but that theme and the blue color and, you know, all the different colors throughout the board and the art, it gives it a nice, easy-ish feeling, if that makes any sense. And some of these guys, I mean, like Echo here, looks fantastic. All right, so overall, I like the game. And I like it for several reasons. One, I do like worker placement games. And I do like how there is a lot of different options without a feeling like it's overloading you. And there are some spots where multiple people can go. And with each location itself, it's going to provide you with similar benefits. Like you might be able to get fruit on several locations throughout the board, and you might be able to get shells and cards. So you don't have a feeling of like, if you missed that location, you can't get any more fruit, and that's definitely what you needed. There are other options throughout the other boards allowing you to get what you need. Maybe not as much, maybe even more, but it gives you that option. So I really like the choices in the game. There's a lot, but it doesn't bog down. Like it's not like analysis paralysis type of deal. Like you're thinking for like 5 minutes straight of where you're going to go, right? There's a few options, and I really like that. So I think they did a really good job with that worker placement aspect. I like the aspect of the different challenge cards, like pertaining to different arenas. So it gives you incentive, like say you only need one more Chronoseum challenge to complete a set to get more points on the champion board. And you also see the judge on the Chronoseum too, giving you even more of an incentive to go to that Chronoseum to complete that challenge. So I like those little ideas that you can really plan out a turn like, okay, I know the judge and the judge moves each round. So like I know the judge is going to be here, and I know I'm going to need that to complete that set, as well as if you have certain challenge cards underneath of your character board, say you have one for the Lamar Stadium, certain monsters might be weak against that type of stadium, which means when you go to fight that monster, depending on how many cards, maybe say for Lamar Stadium, you have underneath of your board, you get an additional free die to roll against that monster. And that is a huge benefit. So that is even more like a thought process to be like, guess what? The judge is going to be at Lamar Stadium. I'm going to go there, complete a challenge, completing my set, giving myself points. I completed the challenge in front of the judge, giving myself even more points. And then after that, I'm going to go to this monster who is weak against Lamar Stadium stuff to then gain an additional die to put a hit on that monster, potentially killing that monster. So there are those types of moves throughout the game. And I think that is a really fun aspect of the game. I really like that. Overall, I just like completing the challenges. I think it's cool. I think it's like cool, you know, trying to gain a certain amount of dice, right? You got like maybe an upgraded red die, you know, maybe 2 regulars, and you're going to go to try to complete a challenge on the Droska ring. I just like trying to complete those challenges to then upgrade my stats on my character board. I think that's just fun overall. That's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of different challenges, so you're not stuck into like something that you can't get out of, right? Like there's a lot of options, and if you have a few like challenges that you just can't complete, easy, just go to the Citadel of Time, gain some more challenges, and then you're good to go. I really like the stunt cards as well. Just having that spirit trait, because the first few games, I didn't even really care about this. It was nice to get this up, but then over the course of a few games, I was like, you know what? You could do a build just playing stunt cards, because these have powerful benefits on them as well. I really like Lamar Stadium, how it has this boat aspect, and this just goes around the sides of the boat, and depending on the spots that it lands on, you get that benefit. So that's a cool little thing to just go there and just kind of drive this boat around the edges, gaining more stuff. And some character cards, and as well as there's a certain space here, Racer's Bay, you can potentially make the boat go around a few spaces other than just one when you go to the island. So you can possibly get a ton of benefits whenever you go there. So I really like that aspect. each island has something unique to it, as well as providing similar benefits. So it's really cool in that aspect. Now, talking about the 2 main resource tokens, I think this is a cool idea. Like I said, your stat for your focus, which says how many dice you can roll for the game, it starts at 1. So you're definitely going to want more fruit to roll more dice to complete other challenges. So I like that. And then the shells, which are used to block hits coming in from these danger die. The shells are also going to be used once you spend the shell to block a hit. You're going to put that on what's called a shell shield. I didn't talk about this in the overview. Each character is going to have a shell shield. And once you have a certain amount of shells on that shield, you can then spend those from the shield, putting them back into the supply to have an additional benefit. Once you have 4 shells, you can turn a die to whatever face you want. Maybe you needed 1 more face to complete a challenge. So that's a pretty powerful effect. Or if you get 6, you can spend those to refresh some die, moving them from your spent dice back to your active. So overall, there is some mitigation for the dice rolls. Now, I like it. Some might say it's too easy to achieve the results because when you're facing the challenges or the monsters, you can keep re-rolling these dice if you don't achieve the results. You'll have to keep rolling the danger die, potentially putting more shells onto your shell shield. But the thing is, these dice are going to go into your spent once you use them up. And it's not always the easiest thing to get those dice back from the spent to your active. And also, if you're fighting the monsters, the dice that you use don't go into your spent. They go back into the supply. So I like that there is enough mitigation to really make use of those dice that you're rolling. But it's not too much that it feels so easy because you still have to manage getting shells because you're going to have to block those hits, and as well as getting fruit because you're going to want to spend more fruit to roll additional die. So it's not the easiest thing to achieve the results. You have to take other factors into consideration as well as fighting the monsters. And there's enough mitigation in there from all of these things that you can kind of expect to succeed. I have failed a few times, but overall I have passed a lot of the results. The dice upgrading, I thought that was a really cool idea. You start with these just basic dice. They have 1 of each face, including a blank and a question mark, which can be used for anything. But I like the idea of upgrading and specializing into different categories. And then going from there, specializing even further. And then when you get to the top, you basically have a single die for each of the traits, but that die is the most powerful die. There's no blank faces, and a lot of these results are 2 of the trait that it specializes in. So I thought that was a cool idea. I haven't gotten up to these final dice that often. Most of the time, I am good going into the step right before that. There are no blanks on these either. And there's 2 question marks. So you can potentially turn these into any results that you want. And there's some double faces. So you could potentially get a resilience and a synergy with 1 of these faces. So overall, I've kind of been okay at this level right here. And it's not always the easiest thing to get up to this final level either, because you're going to be fighting monsters, spending those dice, and you're going to have to work out how to get your spent dice back to your active. So there's a lot of factors to consider, but I just like that idea of upgrading those dice. I think that is a really cool idea. And one more thing that I wanted to talk about is the solo. So I played this game a few times solo as well, and I think the AI in this is very challenging without being too complex. So the solo player, they get an additional marker, so allowing them to go to more places than you. However, you get to control other characters that the solo person isn't using, but you have to get to that point on the champion board. Once you are at the same level as one of these spare characters, you can then use them one time, doing the same thing, like gaining the benefit like you would from yourself, and then you would move them up on the champion board, having to get yourself on the champion board equal to them or greater in order to use them again. So I really like the system that they designed in here. Like I said, the AI is pretty difficult. how they work is they draw challenge cards off the top, and depending on what arena it says, they will go to that arena, and however many points it has on there determines what spot they go to, or if they go to the fold to put hits on the monster. And that challenge card that they draw will go under their board as well. And once they have a certain number of points that the points add up to, they will perform a special attack almost. And those specials can vary depending on which arena they got that special attack from. So like if they got Lamar Stadium, depending on the number, they would send the boat around the track a certain amount of times. And let's say they sent the boat to 3 different spaces around the track. Whatever space it lands on, the human player has to pay those in resources back to the supply. So let's say it landed on a die symbol. I would have to take a die from my character board back into the supply. If they hit the stat dial, I would have to go down on a stat of my choice. And if they landed on a stunt card, I would have to pay a stunt card back. So I thought that was a really cool aspect that you're trying to avoid. Now, as you complete challenges, the challenge that you complete, like let's say I completed one for Chronoseum and it gives me 4 points, I can then remove a challenge card from the AI equal to 4 points or less from them, trying to avoid them from doing that, what's called a plot effect or their super. So overall, the AI has been really fun to play against. I think this is a good solo game. I've really enjoyed it more than I expected to. The first game I played against the AI, I barely won. And the AI, when you're playing solo, you don't go by how many points you have. You just go by where you are on the champion board. I was 1 above the AI on the champion board. Ever since then, I've lost every single game, but it's been close. It's not like I've been getting smoked every single time. So overall, I've thoroughly enjoyed the solo experience in this game. Overall, like I said, I've really enjoyed the game. If you like worker placement games with dice chucking, I think you're going to like this one too. I really like the aspect of going around to the different islands, how they're broken down like that. And there's a lot of different options while providing you with a unique set of options. I kind of get the feeling of Champions of Midgard, right? It's got the set collection, the dice rolling, and worker placement. It's kind of got that vibe. So if you like Champions, I think you're going to like this one too. But it's a little bit different of a theme while doing things slightly different. And if you like solo games, I think you would be pleasantly surprised with this. I know I was. Overall, the options that it provides, it's complex, it's puzzly, but it's not a brain burner. I've thoroughly enjoyed it more than I expected to, like I said. It can be a little bit of a chore to set up, right? There's a lot of different parts. There's a lot of different cards that you got to shuffle and put out on different places, as well as there's a ton of dice that you got to set up and different kinds of tokens, right? And each character has its own character deck, and then you're going to have the market cards. So there's a lot that you would have to set up. That would be I don't want to say it's a downside, but it's something to consider. But I think if I was going to go play a solo game, or if people were coming over and I was like, what's kind of an easygoing game that we can all enjoy, this would be in that running. I really do think that. And that mixed with the theme, the easygoingness of it, and just the fun aspects of completing the challenges, fighting these cool monsters, and each of the islands having a unique feel to it, just like this boat running around here. I think it's super cool. I like what they did here. And for the price, like I said, I only have the retail version. I do not have the Kickstarter. And I think I got this for around $40 on Miniature Market. I don't know if it's still that price, but $40 for this, I'm not complaining. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it was worth every penny. So again, good game. I recommend this one. If you're on the fence about this one and you can find it at a decent price, I'd say like around 40, 45, something like that, I think you should jump in. I think you should give it a shot, see if it's for you. And it has a great solo. So even if you can't get a group together to play this that often, I do recommend it for the solo aspect as well. So final score, I'd probably give this one around a 7.5 or an 8. Thoroughly enjoy it for a solo, and the family has liked it as well, and I can see myself getting this out quite often. I really like the setting, the worker placement, as well as the dice chucking and the different options that you have available to you. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that. Please let me know in the comments if you have this game. Do you enjoy it as well? What are your thoughts? And if you like this video, please think about giving this video a like and think about subscribing. It would really help out. So until next time, grab some brews, play some games, and I'll see you guys later. All right, take care.